Hi guys. Oh, that's extremely loud, but it's quite fun. My name's Mohsin, and I'm going to be talking to you for about 25-30 minutes today. I'm also being recorded, so no stress, it's going to be on YouTube a bit later. But I'm a denim designer and a historian. I've been a denim designer for 24 years. I work for a lot of companies, Levi's Japan, Visu, Edwin, lots of denim companies really. And yeah, I'm now a historian as well. I've got a consultancy together with my wife, Sadia, who's a graphic designer and filmmaker. And together we run Engerome, which is quite fun. I'm also an educator as well. So for the last 20 years, I've been teaching a lot at St. Martin's, Royal College of Art, London College of Fashion, Ravensbourne, all the major denim-based projects in Europe actually, even in Milan and in Hong Kong, and everywhere where they teach denim, I'm most of the time there teaching alongside the students, so it's quite fun. So yeah, I'm involved in all that kind of work. But today is not really about that. So let's just begin. So basically, denim is interesting because it starts, we've been wearing workwear and protection garments for millions of years. Like an apron is a very good example of a protection garment. And obviously our story, we're all here at this trade show today because we all love denim. And our story begins with the humble rivet. So the first patent I'm going to show you is actually from Levi's, and it's quite funny. This is actually the actual rivet patent from Jacob Davis. And everything begins from here really, so it's interesting. So it starts with the humble rivet. And the very first workwear garments from our period, the denim period, they were made for miners. They were made for miners, of course, but these garments were made for a purpose. The pocket shapes were the shape of the tools. Everything about them were quite ergonomic. They were much more wider than we normally wear pants now. And you wear them on top of another pair of pants. So they were like protection garments. And we can tell a lot of interesting things about it. Also, what's cool about the patents is, and you can find out so much historical knowledge from patents from our American friends, patented everything. So I'm doing a book next year which is going to come out all about patents in like workwear. It's quite a big, thick book. But yeah, the very first one is going to be about the like, sort of rivet. But these early garments were made for like sort of miners, and the very first fabrics that they were actually like using, it wasn't an indigo blue, it was actually a duck canvas. So similar to what Carhartt use now, the 2/2, all our weaving friends will know what that is. But very, very soon after, they started using indigo as well. There's some historical reference that indigo was used pre-Levi's, most likely was. So don't ever believe when everyone says that they claim to do certain things, half the time it's not really that true. But Levi's for sure claim that they invented the blue jean, and most of us kind of agree. But there is some historical like sort of evidence that indigo, especially indigo from the Indus Valley region, was in America 20, 30 years or so earlier. So it's quite interesting. So our story begins here. This is a reproduction of duck canvas. The very first jean, as they call it, the overall from 1872, 1873. Levi's themselves don't have a copy of this pant. They gave it to like the actual like Smithsonian, which is quite cool. But they went back a few years ago and they basically actually recreated it again for the 150th anniversary. So very lucky I've got one of these pieces, so I'm quite happy to have that. And obviously these garments that we're talking about, they were made for protection garments, they were for miners, a bit like military garments nowadays, they're made for a purpose. So everything about the jean or the overall back then was literally about the shape of the pocket, the shape of the front pockets and the back pockets, and of course the important rivets that held everything in their stress points. But denim is interesting because it's denim and leather, and maybe those two fabrics really, those two materials, they leave an imprint of what you're doing. So I'm a historian, I've got more than 3,000 vintage garments, and half the time I like to look at what the person was doing, or I like to explore what the person was actually doing when they were wearing it. So this is actually a table, and you can see the wood grain coming through. Why does that actually happen? That happens because of the ring dyeing process on how we make our warp yarns where we make denim-like fabrics. Any other fabric, we don't do this sort of method. That's why the core of the yarn is still white. That's why denim fades. So whenever you wear garments that are indigo dyed in this way, the indigo chips off. And the ring dyeing process is interesting if you didn't know, because it goes in and it comes out and it's dry and it goes in. And basically do it really, really like sort of quickly. but the indigo doesn't penetrate all the way through, and they did that to save money. Remember, these garments that we love to wear, they were even thinking about saving money in the 1870s, so it's very, very interesting. Now, indigo itself originally comes from a plant, which is quite beautiful, but you need a football field to make a small amount of dye, and that's not sustainable either. And the main ingredient for the indigo that we use currently in our industry is benzene, which is rat poison, which is a petrochemical. So all the dyes that we use are the evilest things ever. So the solutions, there's so many solutions when it comes to modern and circular ways of working that are all linked, and I'm going to go through what my thought process is here. So even the earliest genes that we know about, hello Amy, even the earliest genes that we know about, like the earliest like like Nevada gene is natural indigo based. And they stopped using natural indigo around 1904, 1906 period. Cones say it's sometime later. Natural indigo it's phased out around 1894. So it's interesting. But even Cone Denim's own history from the beginning, they didn't really use natural sort of indigo. But this early gene that Levi's have is actually a natural indigo based one, based from a much earlier denim from an amazing old mill, which I've forgotten for some reason, but yeah. Anyway, so our process of making fabrics, if you guys don't know, is labor intensive, energy consumptive. It's a lot of energy and a lot of water. Just so you understand, everyone always brings out 4,000 liters for a pair of jeans. That's kind of true. This is 4,000 liters. If you don't know, it's the size of a small swimming pool. So that's 4,000 liters. So you can easily see that's how much water it takes to grow an entire jean up until you wear it. That includes the cotton stage and some washing stages and sort of treatments. There's a lot of wastage also in pattern cutting. Oh my God! Most of the garments that we wear today, there's more than 20 to 30% wastage in the cutting stage, which is madness. So think about it. The dyes that we're using are really evil. How we're pattern cutting and designing, we're wasting so much fabric. We would never ever in our life, 200 years ago, think about wasting all of these materials. So the cutting stage is what I'm talking about today, really going into depth on. The earliest known garment that we know about, that we found on a mummy, was a zero waste garment. There's a whole documentary about it if you go on YouTube. It's like a 45-minute documentary just about this, and amazing talented lady found it and reverse engineered it, and they were surprised to say it was a zero waste garment. So the earliest known garments that we know about are zero waste, so we need to explore it further. That's going to be my case for today. Zero waste isn't anything new. We've been doing it for millions of years, but earliest or known examples that we know about that are quite obvious to all of us are obviously the basic kimono. Also, really rudimental garments as well. Even this farmer's pant that I've got is a zero waste garment. So yes, it's a bit boxy, that's true, but it looks awesome. It looks awesome I had it on a female model, and she looked absolutely awesome in it. So sometimes these oversized garments do look quite awesome, but yeah, zero waste is interesting, but there are some drawbacks. I've seen so many zero waste collections that look hideous too, where the shapes are strange, the pockets are strange. I personally believe we should be making garments that you don't even know are zero waste. That's what I think. So, and there's no reason why we can't do it. Even there's lots of examples of zero waste garments from other people's archives. This is the Cone Found book that I've got, and in it there are some zero waste shirts as well. It's shirts that literally have got no wastage at all, how they've been sort of pattern cut. And if you go back in history, I'm doing a patent book which is coming out in April. It's more than 200 pages about old denim and workwear patents. In it, there's lots of examples of zero waste as well, which is quite awesome. But the problem we find, we're mostly fashion designers, and we want to wear garments that fit us really well, interesting shapes, interesting silhouettes. This is a great example of the 1999 red jean that Levi's made, and obviously that garment was amazing. It had a corkscrew effect. It had more fabric on the back. It was ergonomic, but the way they achieved it was through the pattern itself, and the pattern is actually on the patent, which is quite fun. But there's a lot of wastage on that pattern, so that's also another thing. But I've also explored. I've been working with a lot of students in the last 7-8 years, where we've been looking at garments and converting them into zero waste. So it's possible. It really is possible. But a great example of that is actually one of my students, Barbara. She explored trucker jackets for one entire year, literally 1 year, which is madness. But she did an amazing job. She did a whole MA, PhD, crazy booklet about it, and you should download it. But just one example, because I've taken some pictures from her book, but basically she was just literally working out a way of streamlining and getting a pattern in a sleeve that has no waste. So she explored existing jackets and new shit. There's extra pattern pieces, there's the armhole. How can you do it? So she explored kimono methods, figured out a way of joining it all up. So there are ways to do it. Even myself, even what I'm showing you today, I've been exploring I've done about 6 or 7 big zero waste projects now. And this one in particular was a really successful one that I did about 4 years ago, I believe. Yeah, it was July 2021 it came out, so about nearly 5 years ago, or 4 years ago. But it was actually for Cone Denim, and Cone Denim basically said to me, Mohsin, we've got 13 fabrics that we've made. They're the most sustainable fabrics we've ever created. They're all like sort of EMF, sort of Eleanor MacArthur approved, amazing standards, zero water, all the rest of it. Let's make a collection. And I said, well, let's do something that has no waste instead. I said, give me each of the fabrics, and I'm going to make patterns to fit as much as I possibly can onto each garment. So I made an entire tie-like collection, and actually it was a really fun exercise. But the thing is, when you start working in this way, you have to disregard everything you've learned before. So you have to do pattern pieces that probably aren't on the right grain line. Here I put my front and back legs together at the same time, which is something you never do in that production. I even put the pocketing piece inside. The yellow is actually where the waist is. I've done other versions with no waist, so it's just so explaining. The trucker jacket that I made, and I wanted to make a garment that looked like a garment, not some weird garment with a strange circle pocket. So this jean looks like a normal jean, but the only thing that's different about it is it has a dart in certain areas to make it like sort of tapered. That's it. So to the untrained eye, it looks like a normal 5.5 pocket. And I did a type 2 like trucker as well, and that was really successful. And I ended up giving that piece actually to the Levi's archive, so they have that exact piece now. So they were very pleased. The Tracy Panic was extremely happy to retrieve it, because it's based on one of their garments. So I thought, I went to visit the archive 2 years ago, and I was told by my friend Miles Johnson, don't ever go to the archive, you have to go there with a present. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give him a garment. So nice tip. So here's the actual type 2 jacket there, beautiful pleats. The good thing about zero waste, and I've noticed it in a lot of garments that I've come across, especially women's wear garments, is extra pleating, really quite beautiful shapes you can do, creating nice volume. You see it in a lot of these pirate shirts that we see, extra voluminous sleeves, that kind of thing. If you follow that kind of philosophy, you can actually go to town on it, so it's quite fun. Here we go, and here's the actual pattern piece here. Here's actually the model actually wearing the actual piece, and you can see there's this extra dart on the collar there. I made the sleeves extremely straight, so you don't have to have curve details. And yeah, it's hardly, actually I did another version where I got rid of that yellow and that yellow and that yellow, so I don't know, what's that? 0.5% waste? I don't know what that is, so it's quite amazing. But the problem that we find is, I've managed to fit this garment onto this fabric, but what about size 47, Mohsin? What about size 48? What about grading? That's a whole different palaver. So you have to do basically new patterns for every single grade. It's really complicated. That's one method. That's one method, okay? Or you can weave the fabric in a certain width and then you can fit it in. So that's another method too. And yeah, here's more examples of that too. And this is a collection that we washed at La Genealogia, which is really quite fun. But the weaving process is interesting. The denim that we wear is a 3x1 right-hand tool. If you don't know, the earliest fabrics that we were using before were 2x1s, were kind of like a shirting weight that we use now. And around the 20s and 30s, we upgraded to the 3x1. The reason why it is a 3x1 construction is basically they figured out really early that this is a good weave pattern that adds strength. Also, most of the indigo is on the front or the presentation side, and there's less of it on the back. So, there's a reason for that. And because of the ring dyeing process, they can basically get away with using less dye. So it's a really clever, ingenious method of making a fabric look a certain color, but more than 30 or 40% of it is not actually dyed. So it's quite fun. Anyway, so here's an example of the 3x1, just so we're all up to date. It's that one right there. And yes, the earliest garments that we know about were the origin of the workwear garments in denim was a duck canvas, a 2x2. Anyway, so next, Jacquard. So we talked about 3D pattern. We talked about pattern cutting. This isn't anything new, but it definitely needs exploring. One other thing I want to show you on this particular piece, I had a struggle when I was doing this pattern. I said, how am I gonna find a place to put my coin pocket? I put it in between the scoops of both the front, on both the front legs. So that's how I can get my coin pocket. So there's lots of, you have to really think differently when you pattern cut in this way. And I didn't follow the curve of the pocket. I folded it in to look like a normal coin pocket too. But I've been doing lots of projects for the last 4 years with TU Delft. It's a really amazing university. And every year there's 1 or 2 students that I mentor, and we work together with Denim. It's an amazing mill based in Pakistan, and we create 3D Jacquard garments. Now, when you think about Jacquard, most of them, it's all about the repeat. So most Jacquard looms, they have, I don't know, a 12 by 12 inch repeat. The bigger the repeat, the bigger you can get your pattern piece inside it. So just to explain to you. So just so we're all on the same page, what the hell is a Jacquard weaving? Basically, we're using a Jacquard loom to put indigo yarn through it, so it still fades, it's still dyed with the ring dyeing process, but you can have multiple layers at the same time. So if you're extremely clever, you can actually, let me just show you this. You can actually get the front and the back of a jean onto one piece, multiple layers at the same time. So when I open this up, it's got the pocket bag already in it, and it's got the front and back panel already in it. So all you're basically doing is the front and back leg is woven at the same time. This is just one method. And all of the designers that have been exploring this, they're not fashion designers that have been doing it. That's what's frustrating for me. They're all product designers, which is fine. So most of us fashion people or denim designers have not explored this at all. So we're letting other people in other industries have a go at doing a jean, and that's perfectly fine, but we need denim designers to mess with it, to come up with something that looks more presentable, because every single layer, you can decide what weave pattern it's going to be. So you can have a 2x2 inside the pocket. It's madness. So I've got panels here. You can have a look at them. You know, it's quite amazing. This is actually a trucker jacket. Can you believe? An entire trucker jacket. And when you open it up in certain ways, it becomes a jacket. So it's like kind of like an accordion. That's the only way to describe it. But there's many different ways. So not only do you have to be really amazing at pattern cutting, you have to be really amazing and an engineer at Jacquard weaving. So it's a much more complicated thing that we're discussing here. That's why you don't get many designers doing it. So I'm hopefully going to be doing a master's and a PhD program in the next few years. And I think we're going to be going a lot in this kind of way, which is going to be quite fun. So you can see here, every single layer can be a different weave pattern, but every single time you do it, the fabric gets thinner and thinner. So I was speaking to Dr. Holly McCrillen, who's the main lady who's inspired to do all this, and she was telling me, actually Mohsin, the looms do exist, but they're more for the automotive industry, car industry. So I was at ITMA a few years ago, or last year, whatever it was, and we were discussing all the loom manufacturers to come up with newer ways to make looms that we can do stuff like this, so the repeat is much bigger, and we can do much more higher density sort of fabrics. So you can have multiple layers. This is the entire jean, that's just 2 panels. All you have to do is attach the waistband and the one-piece fly, that's it. So it's 4 panel pieces, that's it. So it's quite an amazing idea, but, you know, does it look good? End of the day, if it doesn't look good, no one's going to buy it. So we need to get talented designers to mess with this way of working, come up with interesting washes and treatments and weave patterns that look like a normal jean. Ideally, we should be seeing Tesco's use this technology. But it's going to take the likes of a Levi's or someone to jump on it when everyone else copies them. That's the problem that we face. Even though this technology is available, we haven't got the right people pushing for it, which is a shame. Anyway, so yeah, there's an example of some of the earliest examples, and some of the ones that we've come across that I've seen, they look like trousers really. So again, not denim designers doing it. This is actually Dr. Holly McCrillen's work here. But the beautiful one, you know, the accordion work, she actually told me, Mohsin, I got inspired by pattern pieces when you laid them on top of each other. You can clearly see both the pattern pieces on a transparent, you can see how to do it. So that's how she got inspired to do it. But does it look cool? You know, that's a whole different discussion. But we need talented designers to mess with this technology. And this is one of my other students, like Jordan. I mentored him all of last year, and he made a jean, and we had an industry panel talk, and we invited like 50 people to look at his work before he got marked. And the comments were like, you know, it just needs to look more better, which is true. And, okay, he had some creative freedom on the weave patterns he decided to use, which I wouldn't have necessarily done that, but it's his work and that's fine. But what he came up with was quite amazing. What was quite amazing, and this is Barbara's work, where she explored trucker jackets for an entire year. Extremely complicated, and yeah, it's quite fun. But polyester is one of the evilest things, if you don't know, that we've ever created. But we need it. We need it for strong garments. We need it for like military. Do we need it for a 40-euro jean? No, not at all. So there's enough plastic in all of us right now that a credit card amount. It's a real problem. There's dust. We found plastic particles in blood in like sort of like newborn babies. It's insane. You know, I made a big joke about it, warning this garment contains 100% polyester, a derivative of crude oil, sheds microplastics. You know, it's like mental. That should be in every Sweaty Betty, Nike, Adidas, Puma garment, really. And anyone who uses polyester in this entire like building. Another thing that we could explore is obviously 3D printing and also laser printing. This is a collection I did, one of the very first Levi's project that they ever used like laser. That's my claim to fame that no one's going to take away from me. But it was actually zero waste, which is quite hilarious. So I was doing this more than 20 odd years ago. And then I've been exploring other ways of doing zero waste now. We're using with our friends Stellar Blue, who aren't showing here, but they have an amazing technology called Cool Trans, where they print on the front and the back at the same time, at the same bloody time, which is amazing. Now, I looked at this and I thought, this is so bloody cool, but the only thing I noticed was, man, there's so much white there. There's so much bloody white there. So, I've done pattern pieces that fit this machine like perfectly now. So it's just understand, but most people would say, Mohsin, don't worry, we're a vertical mill. We'll just use that waste and re-put it into the program again. That's fine, but it's a whole bloody industry of collecting waste, because it's a design problem why we're not fixing this, to be honest. And yeah, anyway, lots of books I'm releasing quite soon. Workwear painted books, lots of archive books. I've got another one here that's quite fun as well. But yeah, I've got a big archive. I've been lucky enough to visit lots of people's archives. Cone were very kind enough to let me have lots of their photographs of their Cone archive, which is quite fun. Also, I went to the Levi's archive. Lots of really important denim people have opened up their archive for me, only because I'm a denim historian, so I can get in there. But I'm doing a book about construction quite soon, about how garments work and were constructed. So that's the book that I've been working on for many years, which is quite fun. And then I use that to create replica garments to inform myself, but to inform students and young designers as well, which is quite fun. And that influences other collections that I do too, which is quite fun. This is a like quadruple pleated trucker jacket with a circle bar tacks, if you don't know what that is. And so yeah, it's quite fun. This is quite fun. This is okay, little fun story. This is a zero waste garment, which is quite fun. But this is based. One of my friends, Michael Allen Harris, who's a very famous denim historian, found this scrap. This is a pocket scrap. So a few of us looked at it very closely, and we figured out that this pocket scrap was from this patent drawing, which is quite fun. So from that patent drawing and that scrap, I ended up creating that style. Not only did I copy the pocket itself, I even got the correct fabric, nearly like 2x1 fabric from Cone, and I recreated the pattern so it was zero waste. I had other shirts from the same period, so I understood the shape. So there's so much historical stuff that we're doing in the last few years, which is so goddamn fun. And I've got a book about that coming out too as well. But yeah, lots of cool. This is the earliest known duck garment that Levi's have in their archive. They call it like dead grass, if you don't know. What a fantastic name, dead grass. Anyway, and there it is, me working out. And these early garments were amazing. The leather patch was in the middle, all single needle tailored, one pocket, beautiful. And it was a duck canvas as well. And lots of a lot of my friends, this is a historical garment that's found down a mine, and they like reverse engineered it to understand it. Even the twin needle stitches are a 3/16th, if you don't know what that is. All these amazing measurements that we no longer use, that can all be influenced. And also, when Levi's had the patents of the rivets, no one else could do rivets, so other brands were doing extra stitching. And this is actually a Levi's garment, which is quite funny. So they basically copied their competitor and copied it again. So Levi's themselves were copying other people too, which is quite fun. Interesting. And then I did a linen-based project a few years ago as well, where this mad lady decided to grow her own linen, dye her own, grow her own linen, grow her own indigo, wove it with one other person, and then I was the one who made it. So only 3 people were involved in the creation of this garment, which is quite amazing. And yeah, so I honestly believe you know, what I want to end with is that we need to make circular garments, right? We need to make garments with hardly no waste. But also the problems are the treatments we use, the trims we use, they can't be removed. Rivets is one obvious example. We don't need rivets anymore. I'll be honest with you, we don't need them. A bar tack can do the job perfectly. We don't need to use them. I know it's crazy I'm saying it being a denim designer like myself, and it began with the rivet, but we no longer need rivets. So we can make a circular garment which is zero waste, with removable trims, and you can throw the entire thing into a recycling machine and it will all get chewed up. But the process of our fibres is the next thing that we need to really concentrate on. Cotton has been genetically modified just like everything else, including our food. This early garment from, I think 1910 is it? I believe, I've forgotten where it is. It's most likely using a Jamal tree or Sea Island cotton to do it. We can recreate that, but not really. We can or we can't. So it's interesting what's going on. But, you know, for sure the future is still tencel, lyocell. Organic cotton, yes, it's a myth. It's only like, what, 1%? Like hemp, I still believe in it. Oh my God, you know, the amount of hemp collections I've done in the last 5 years that have been groundbreaking. I think everyone just thinks it's a trend. It's not. I've made cottonized collections that you wouldn't even know they're hemp. And of course, recycled fibers are coming into their own so bloody well. We shouldn't even be growing cotton like anymore. That's me saying it. So it should only be the 4 things that we got right there, really. And then yeah, know your stitches, guys. You got to know your inches. All these designers that think they know they're designers, you need to know your inches to become a good designer. Every single sewing machine is made in inches. The moment you understand that, everything makes total sense of what's actually happening. So that's me. I hope I made a case about zero waste. So we've got zero waste pattern cutting, zero waste jacquard weaving, both coming into their own. It's exciting. Speak to your designers, product managers, design managers, go, look, let's explore this. Best-selling shirt, best-selling pant. Let's explore a way of doing it with no waste. So yeah, I'll leave it now to you.